morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Doug Brunke at Global Chamber headquarters in Scottsdale, Arizona, US, and we've got a great conversation today for you with women from all over the world who will be talking about their challenges and their opportunities. I'm the co-moderator today, and I'll be introducing Angela in a moment. I just wanted to say a couple words about Global Chamber. Our headquarters is in Scottsdale, Arizona, so in the United States, but it's not a U.S. organization. It's really built to build connections between any location. So whether it's Kathmandu to Dubai or Morocco to Tokyo, anywhere in the world, our goal on a daily basis is to connect businesses to new clients, to partners, to new opportunities that they can allow their company to grow. One of the really key things for us is, what are some of the real drivers to growth? And we believe that, empowering women and also having a diverse workforce is a key to success for companies all over the world. And so that's why we do a lot of events, women in global leadership, women in leadership, period, because we think it's an important trend. We think it's important, period. And so thank you for listening today. Angela, tell us a little bit about ACE, and thank you for collaborating with us today. Angela's coming in from Washington, D.C.
Thank you very much, Doug, for the kind introduction and for all the opportunities you're forging around the world. It's really great work you're doing, and I'm happy to be here. Good morning to everyone in Arizona as well. We're glad to have such a distinguished audience here in D.C. and, of course, our online community. Welcome. So the Global Chamber is renowned in the world of international business for providing information, forging connections, and mentoring for industry leaders. And at ACE, the Association for Community Empowerment, this is also one of our core movements, bringing community members together to share ideas and to learn about these opportunities, these abundant opportunities that are out there. We enjoy bringing communities and like-minded people together, so there's a lot of crossover. We're dedicated to empower all stakeholders with knowledge and access to resource essential for fostering lasting, meaningful cultural connections. At ACE, it's primarily between the US and the Caspian region, and we support education. Education is a common thread. It's so important. Sustainability, of course, and global interconnectivity. So I was delighted when you all at the Global Chamber approached us about this Women in Global Leadership seminar. I'd like to thank our panelists, for women who are indeed leading their industries with strength and efficacy. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us today and for sharing your insights and your inspirations. A common thread amongst all of our speakers here today is education. And one of ACE's core beliefs is education. Knowledge is power, and access to education should and could be afforded to everybody, every person in the world. So we're very happy to have a large community here joining us from all around the world today. My colleague and co-founder of ACE, Sabina Agayeva, she's long been empowering communities in the Caspian region and the United States by providing valuable resources in order to help people realize the opportunities out there. So thank you for being here with us, Sabina. I've also invited two of my colleagues in the education sector to share their innovative learning solutions. Stu Finnegan from Education Vector and Elsham Balagnawa from WCC International. We look forward to hearing about your learning platforms later on. And I encourage everybody, online and in person, both here in Washington, D.C. and in Phoenix, Arizona, to take advantage of the experts we have on our panel today and actively participate in the Q&A segment that will be following. So without further ado, I would like to introduce the audience to our esteemed panel of women in global leadership. First to share her remarks is Samrah Azam. She's joining us from Islamabad, Pakistan. Samrah is the CEO of Vigo Business Consulting, and she's also the executive director of Global Chamber in Islamabad. Samrah is an international business consultant. She provides HR, human resource consultancy, business cleansing solutions, and designs innovative training modules for education and different corporate sectors. So Samrah, please tell us a little bit about your experience and your aims, your work.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Clearly.
All right. Okay, great. As far as my experience is concerned, let me just first welcome you all before I move forward towards like what was my experience. I would like to thank Doug Bronke, the CEO of Global Chamber, for giving me the opportunity to share my views today about the challenges for women in our region, especially about how women, what kind of women are facing what challenges. One of the biggest challenge we face in our region is about the situational security concerns. And I've also found like in manufacturing departments, handling the labor is biggest challenge. And when it comes to financial, the system here for women, like the similar opportunities for how to acquire a certain loan for a male and female is quite different. And women need to have another, to give a security from another man when she's applying for a business loan or any personal loans. So this was also quite a concern which has to be taken care of. Yeah, and again, we feel like it's a male-dominating society, which is the biggest challenge. Again, another big. Yeah, and we have to struggle double to be looked after in the similar way. You know, if we are trying to struggle in our business, we have to put our double struggle. First, to assert that no, we are females, yes, we can do it. That is something which has to be addressed. But if you have if you're fortunate enough and you have opportunity to deliver at some international level, this is like maybe less than 0.1% chance for women who are into business.
So it's quite inspiring, Samrah, that you've been able to be so successful.
Yeah, because we as a women, we have to we have to make assure that our family is allowing us. We have to take permission step by step, take approval from our family. This is how our culture is. Like, we need to get approved each and every step, that who we are meeting, who we are addressing, what we're doing. So taking an independent role and then even asserting our positions, that has to take a double effort.
Could I interject something, Angela? I just have a follow-up question. What I thought I heard you say, Samrah, this is Doug Brunke asking the question. Were you saying that women in Pakistan and maybe in the region more broadly, maybe you could define that a little, to be successful, you really need to have the support of a man? Is that, I didn't quite understand that, but basically, tell us a little bit more about how women succeed. Certainly Malala, everybody now around the world knows all about. I presume the man in her life that inspired her maybe was her father. I don't know, but listening to some of the stories about what she's been able to accomplish, how do you equate that into the business world there?
Yeah, you need to have a support system with you, which if you're fortunate that your dad is supporting you, if you are fortunate that your husband is there for you, who can help you have a secure system around you. Or you can even add more people or even if your employees, if one of your employees is strong enough to handle such laborers or such people maybe, okay, then you will be able to deliver a lot more better. So in even an independent role, if you're a faculty member in a university, you are always secure. You don't have to worry about anything. But if you are working in field where you need to meet and greet a lot of people, there you need to be very much careful about who you are meeting, and your families normally they don't allow you. So the security is one of the biggest concern for us. Yeah, and at the same time, if like a woman, she's determined and she would like to succeed. So first of all, if she follows up her dream, and then she needs to come up with an idea of that, yes, first of all, to get the approval from the family. So she has to pursue her career, and she would like to continue her journey. So then again, if the family is agreed, then she has a lot more better chance to deliver. And of course, education matters. So the education is the key. That's what I believe. If I share my story, I got married when I was only 19 years old, and I didn't even finish my college at that time. But I was fortunate enough that my husband allowed me to study. I completed my first graduation in 1998, and then after that I did one degree, which was MBA, a Master's in Business Administration with HR specialization. It was a full-time program which I did from 2003 to 2005, and after that I realized that yes, I can do some work, and I started doing my online consulting work at that time. And I started this my own company in 2011, Vigo Business Consulting. Again, during that program, during my launch of my company, I enrolled into another degree, but that was Master's for Business Administration, and then again that is MS Management Sciences. And it also gave me a chance to further explore how research work is done, and then it supported me. In 2015, there was another program which was US state-funded program for women entrepreneurs in Pakistan. I got selected for that, and that was called Pakistan Women Entrepreneurship Program. It was alums and American University joint program, and which gave us more energy and exposure towards, and there we were able to meet a lot of people. They were all women in that program, and we all shared each other's kind of experiences and learned from each other. In 2016, when I joined Global Chamber as an executive director. At that time, I was not sure how it's going to turn up, and because of my own limitations, and I still feel like I'm on the learning side, and this is going to be something which is very productive for our region if things keep on happening. And today I also invited one of my colleague, and she was with me in that Pew program. And I would like to should I introduce my colleague? Yes.
Sure. Then we'll go to the next speaker. Thank you. Please do.
Okay. Ms. Sarwat, she is the CEO of Career Abayas, and she's here today, and I would like to give her a chance to share her experience being a women entrepreneur, and she would like to share some challenges she's facing as a women entrepreneur. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sarwat, yes. Hello. 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 Yes. How are you? It's really nice meeting you. Really
Thank you.
good to see you. And it's really very pleasant experience having discussion with you about women entrepreneurs. And I really need a platform to tell people how we started working in Pakistan with a very narrow-minded atmosphere and very less education and very less facilities. But we started at a very early age, and now we are growing up into a big business now. And we are doing exporting and manufacturing internationally. So we are very proud to introduce ourselves as a women entrepreneurs working with international level, and we are not less in quality, less in presentation, and we don't feel ourselves to be less obliged than other women do.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Angela? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes. Like if there is any questions you would like to answer.
Okay.
We've actually invited the online audience as well as people attending for a half-an-hour Q&A session at the end. So please do stay. I'm sure people have a lot of questions for you. I know I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shafag, yes, Shafag Mehraliyeva is joining us from Azerbaijan. And thank you for taking the time. I know it's evening there and there's a lot of celebrations with the Ramthod and the Kamku. There's a lot going on, so we really do appreciate you taking the time to be here. Shafag is the Chief of Rector's Office for ADA University, the Azerbaijan State University. And in this capacity, she handles a wide range of matters of institutional importance and is responsible for branding and communication strategy at the university. She teaches many courses, including diplomacy, communication, and is actively involved in the community, supporting women, supporting business, and supporting media. So Shafag, you can probably describe a little bit better about what you do than myself, please.
Yes, thank you, Angela, and thank you, Doug, for inviting me to join this panel. Hello to all women global leaders from Baku, and thank you for keeping this agenda hot. I would like to talk a little bit about the historic perspective that would put things in a different perspective for us today. Here in Azerbaijan, the year 2018 has given us a new perspective to reevaluate the role of women in the society. We are marking a centennial of the establishment of the first democracy in the East. And one of the accomplishments that Azerbaijan Democratic Republic of 1918 claims credit for is granting women suffrage in a predominantly conservative Muslim society ahead of the countries like United Nations and few European nations. Now, how did we manage to become different 100 years ago? I think there are two short answers to this question that are very relevant. Fast forward 100 years from then to today. And that is, number one, working with progressive-minded men. And second one, a key word that has been mentioned by every speaker until this moment in our panel, education, enlightenment through education. In fact, in Azerbaijan, men were the ones who started it. The thing is that when you say Azerbaijan, first popping in mind internationally is energy country, right? It's oil and gas. Azerbaijan literally means the land of fire, and oil has been in abundance here for millennia. But in 1846, the first oil well was drilled in the outskirts of Baku, which is the capital city today. And next thing we know, start of the 20th century, Azerbaijan was producing more than half of the world's supply of oil. And I personally like to compare it to a person who wins the lottery. And just like with any sudden wealth, you can either blow it all till the last cent or invest it into sustainable future. And by historic luck, some of the richest oil barons here in Baku decided to invest it into best practices, be it in technology, lifestyle, culture. And one of those guys named Haji Zeynalabdin Tagiev at the turn of the 20th century, in 1901 to be exact, sponsored the very first school for Muslim girls that offered secular education. It wasn't easy. He had progressive ideas himself, but the overwhelming stereotypes and pressure was getting in the way. Tagiev had to battle not one but two fronts. One, local clerics who were falsely declaring that educating women runs against the Holy Quran, and the other one, Russian Empire, who were not excited about women having educated colony, period. He had to get a special letter from Baghdad, from the influential Sharia scholar, just to prove the point that educating women doesn't run contrary to Islam. And he kept preaching that educated women means educated mother and educated family. And another letter he had to get from Russian royal family with a nice juicy bribe to Tsar Nikolai's wife, Empress Alexandra Fedorovna, of course, asking diplomatically to allow to name the school after her. But this particular historic example spurred, if you will, women emancipation even further, up to a point when the first newspaper for women was founded in 1911 with a very suitable title, Ishq, meaning light. And if you page through it today, it is written literally like some kind of instruction to men. The founder was Khadija Alibayeva. She was the first educated women gynecologist in the country. And together with her husband, they launched this paper where they pretty much were explaining Quran verses. One of the issues called men to be patient with women, control their temper. They were writing on marriage and how important it is to keep it. And this was the Enlightenment tool, broadening women's horizons, calling to secular lifestyle. Never anti-religious, never anti-men. However, it only lasted for a year due to overwhelming pressure from clerics. It couldn't survive. Clerics were saying that whatever house has the copy of this newspaper in it is wretched. And the publisher, Khadija Alibayeva, moved to another town, launched girls' literacy courses, and continued with her struggle. 100 years later, some of things that I have mentioned may seem anecdotal, particularly in today's Azerbaijan, but the truth of the matter is that globally we are dealing with the same content, only in different wrapping. And it's very inspiring to see so many women from different countries in the world joining. Women still have to fight stereotypes today. They still need to find progressive-minded partners in the opposite gender to move their agenda forward. Samrah mentioned that her husband kindly agreed to let her continue her education after she got married. And who knows, other women couldn't have been so lucky. We need to realize that education is the only way that will get us there. In Azerbaijan, we have joined international conventions. We have updated our legislature. Women make around 20% of the national parliament and serve as the first vice president of the country. But unfortunately, we still wake up reading in news about early marriages, particularly in rural areas. A couple of weeks ago in the news, a 16-year-old young girl committed a suicide because she was dumped by her fiance. If we take all of the countries that have tuned into this conference of yours, we'll probably be able to draw a lot of parallels. Education, financial opportunities, equal pay, better childcare, an opportunity to balance work and personal life. Women around the world, we want the same things. We want to be happy, and we want to be provided basic human rights. One of the statements, by the way, that we need to be making continuously, that women's rights and gender equality, it is not a newly emerged science. We're pretty much talking about provision of basic human rights. I was conducting trainings recently in the regions of Azerbaijan about gender equality through social media representation. Angela noted that I teach communications. My target audience was media, journalists who are supposed to be among the liberal ones. And even among them were the ones questioning the very definitions. And definitions are very important, not to be carried away in the wrong debate. The issue here what we're talking about is granting equal opportunities. We all may want different things in life. Some of us would like to be stay-home mom and dedicate herself fully to her children. Others want to become an accomplished career shark, which is absolutely fine. And the thing to remember is that we need to build societies where this will not be our only choice should we decide to pursue something else in life. What women would like to become, what they would like to pursue, should be decided by them and not dictated by stereotypes or lack of opportunities. Let me just finish by offering my own formula, how to get there. My personal response is always leading by example. Practice what you preach, ladies. And before you know it, I think you will see the environment around you changing. Every day, step by step, you will be inserting a new pattern of behavior, a new, better standard for women in your surroundings. Granted, it may be faced with opposition or even resistance. That is why I started my remarks with those historic examples. But if at the beginning of 20th century, men and women fought to launch something they believed was fundamental and necessary, and today, 100 years later, we are gathering crops from it, then we can certainly find the way in this high-tech connectivity age to make our voices heard, to lend the support to each other and to unite. And maybe nowhere it is as important as in social media. This is a new battleground of ideas, battleground where public opinions are formed, arguments clashing. So make your voice heard on those platforms and most importantly, lead by your own examples. I'm going to stop here and let audience to tune in with questions and answers later.
Well, you certainly are setting a good example, Shafag. And you're right, progress is not always easy. In fact, it might be one of the hardest things to do, but it's the most rewarding. And there's a lot of different components involved, as you mentioned, the social, the financial and economic, the education. And Tamara, our next speaker, Tamara Kalandiya from the Middle East Institute, you also work in all these sectors, finance, education. She's the Chief Financial and Operating Officer at the Middle East Institute here in Washington, D.C. MEI is a nonprofit think tank and educational organization. In addition to your role in finance, you manage the Institute's academic services, including teaching classes, regional classes all over in Arabic, Persian, Turkish, Hebrew. I'd like to hear more about your story.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak here today. I started working at the office when I was 18. And at the time, I never thought about the gender equality and gender dynamic was never considered by me. That was right. At the time, I lived in Moscow, and that was 7 years after my family fled from Georgia after the war. And maybe that was a different place and time. Maybe I was just worried about getting my paycheck. Maybe because I got very lucky with my work environment and my colleagues. But I never thought that gender issue would ever be in a way of my professional life or my career. But that changed at some point in life many years later. My husband and I, with the kids, returned from the Middle East where we worked for 3 years. And one day my daughter, my oldest one, she was 6 at the time, she was looking for her dad because she had a very important question to ask. And she insisted that she has to ask her dad. And I said, why? I can answer it. And she said, well, because he's a dad and he's American. Well, as a mom, as a Georgian, I was offended in both levels. I was like, okay, it was clear to me that she had the stereotype that for some reason men are smarter, more capable. Where did that come from? Is it product of us living in the Middle East for 3 years? I don't know. But it made me think about what is a world where I'm raising my daughter and what kind of a person I want her to become. My entire work career, I worked hard to support and promote women around me. And serving in the regional director capacity in the Middle East, I nationalized all the finance and admin director positions. I replaced male expats with female national girls. But I didn't do it because they were women. I did that because they were smart, they were capable, they were pursuing their goals, and they could definitely do this job. And in the Middle East, the gap is obviously more pronounced than here in the United States, and I felt that it was my responsibility to help, to support, and be there for them. And once in Jordan, I overheard a conversation. They were hiring an entry-level position person, and they said, well, you know, has good qualifications, but doesn't come from a good family. And good family meant wealthy and influential family. Well, I did make sure that they hired that person, and today that person is an expatriate traveling the world. And there are tons of tremendous examples of that. For example, Suha, my Syrian finance director who I promoted to take this role, recently got her MBA from Washington here. Dina, my Palestinian female finance director, got her degree from, later on moved on and got her degree from the UK. And examples are a lot out there. And those girls proved that they can be successful, they're successful, and they're gonna move on, their career got launched, they're very successful, and they're gonna lead with their example, and they're gonna help others. But I believe there should not be just us women helping, and I ask my male colleagues to help too. I think it should be everybody's responsibility where we can. Well, there is a lot of conversation also in terms of equal pay, and it's very publicized like topic. My personal opinion about that is that you outwork. You work hard, you make yourself invaluable for the company, and then you ask for the pay. And hard work builds your confidence. And my confidence may be a threat for somebody, maybe somebody else is inspired with that, but what they cannot do is just take it from me. And I'm thinking what it is I want for my daughter. I want her to believe in her greatness. I want her to believe, to have the self-confidence in herself and to know that she can do it all. But there is no shortcut to success. And you cannot replace hard work with anything. And there are a lot of problems, barriers, anything, but you just overcome them. And success and happiness comes by, from overcoming them and not avoiding them. When I moved on and I asked my daughter, okay, can you explain why is it that you want your dad to explain? She said, well, in an honest child way, well, Mom, because he's a man and he's an American. And that was the moment when I decided that I have to start the Academy of Georgian Heritage here in Washington, D.C., so I can teach her and other kids what Georgians bring to the table. So she starts building the path to her success and happiness. And so she learns and she feels confident about who she is and about her heritage. And of course, now she's 12 and we have our regular battles with moms and pre-teenage girls. But the other day I had a very sweet moment with her. We were driving from her, I was picking her up from her Girls on the Run program. And she told me in the car, Mom, you are my role model. And when I grow up, I'm going to wear pants in the family. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm really glad you brought up the topic of youth. Youth is our future. And much like Shafag had mentioned with progressive-minded man, it's about cooperation. And especially with the youth, encouraging them, building them up, giving all people opportunities, as education does, giving people from disenfranchised areas or people who some others may look over, refugees, giving them the opportunity. So we really are happy that you founded the Heritage Foundation. And especially that you're working with youth, Georgian American youth. We do the same at ACE, so we really look forward to working in cooperation, building each other all up in the future. Thank you for sharing. That was very nice. And finally, we have Cinthia joining us from Peru. Cinthia, hello. Cinthia Varela is the CEO at the Family Business Association in Peru. Cinthia is the CEO at the Peru University as well. She's a professor, like so many of the wonderful women here. She's also the chairman of Human Resources Committee at OIT Peru, and a member of CADE Universitario Committee and secretary at Beta Gamma Sigma. So you have a lot of hats, Cinthia. Please tell us more about that.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm very honored to be here with all of you. And I want to talk about my association, the Family Business Association in Peru. It's a nonprofit association founded 8 years ago by Peruvian families, 3 Peruvian families. One of them led by a woman. It's very great to know that, because they were aware about the responsibility they have outstanding the improvement of the management of their businesses, the government of their families, and consolidating their business for the generations to come. Now, Peru have more than 60 families, business families, groups of families that represent more than 400 individual members, with almost 300 companies here in the country. So in our association, we bet not only for the future generations, but also for women as a vehicle for sustainability in family businesses and also in the country in general. For that reason, we created a few years ago 2 committees, one of the Next Gen and the other is the women committees. In the women's committees that I want to talk you about today, we did it because we are aware that women today grow professionally, and they are seeking and do whatever they have in their hands to balance work and family, because they are aware of their talents. We need to do some more to improve that. But the president of this committee is a 2nd generation member of family business and also a board member of IF. And with a team of 5 leaders, they develop a different kind of activities that seek that like improving the talent and capabilities of the women in family businesses, like training programs, coaching, mentoring, and trying to help them to succeed in whatever role they want to lead. Not only inside the family business, maybe they want to do another different kind of entrepreneurship. But like in the world, and I have some numbers I want to share with you, women are almost half the population of my association, but they are not in the half of the positions in the businesses in general. My board have 15 people. There are only 5 women. Well, it's more than 30%. It's not so bad, but we can do so much better. But I was trying to look for all the kind of statistics, and I found that in my database I have exactly 144 women that are or co-founders of their businesses, shareholders, CEOs, chairmen of the board or family councils, board members, and top managers. And when I tried to do, okay, how much is the percent about that, I found something, I don't know if I call it good or not, but between the co-founders and partners are only 4%. It's not a lot. Shareholders, 8%, CEOs, only 7%, chairman of boards or family councils, 2%. But between board members and top managers, it's more than 40%. But I tried to look at a little more about a global gender gap report, and I was not so bad with these numbers, because in Peru, only 6% of women are in boards, and less than 20% has a leadership role in their companies. So we have still some work to do. We have a lot of challenges. Not only machismo, here is the same as different parts of the country, like the men are best, right? The access of education, I believe, like Shafag and everyone here, the education is the key. But also, I believe that there is another different kind of barrier that is ourselves. Sometimes we feel not only maybe low self-esteem, but also guilt of all the accomplishments we are taking. Not also that I was the imposter syndrome. You know, that happened to me. When I read all the bios of you, okay, what I'm talking about with all of these women. And I think that if we are aware of the change, not only in the system, but in ourselves, we're going to improve a lot of things. Because diversity and gender balance really improve and add values to companies. And there are studies that prove that the business where women participate in senior positions gets better economic results. So we're in a good path. We need to push it a little bit more.
I agree. And as you mentioned, education is key in pushing this path and forging this path forward. Not only education, but education is a lifelong endeavor. You can become educated in your business, in your entrepreneurs, workforce. Everybody can be educated, and I personally know that I'll be a lifelong student. And this is one of the reasons I brought a couple of my colleagues here today. Stu helps educate the youth, and Elshan provides learning solutions for workforce, business people, entrepreneurs. So we have the whole lifelong path. If you gentlemen would like to take a few minutes and tell us a little bit about your programs. I know Calvert curriculum off the top of my head is the oldest American educational system that was originally implemented for expats and military students traveling abroad. So it has an international base, and I'll let you take it from there, Stu.
It is thank you. I think that Calvert is an interesting organization. They decided in their very earliest days, 1906, that they would have an entirely different organization focused on students who are off campus. And since then, they have had over 600,000 students go through the program. Perhaps our most famous former Calvert student at the moment is Obama. However, there are, with 600,000, you can imagine they have been all over the world, and they have been successful in various areas. The interesting part for me is that these students now come from many countries. We do business in with up to 175 countries because a student can enroll anywhere. They can get either a school supporting them or solid internet access, which gives them quite a few choices. I think that part of what Angela finds interesting about our organization is that we have arranged with a certain number of U.S. universities, 14, to admit the students who have completed this program successfully. So these are programs that run in parallel with their normal high school in their local country. They must get that high school diploma, and then they take some courses from us, 6 minimum, and that gives them a U.S. high school diploma from the state of Maryland, which I know several of us are living in Maryland, which is useful in applying for various universities. But this guarantees them a seat in a freshman class at these universities. Now these are what Elshan recognizes.
With a certain GPA.
With a certain GPA, you must pass. You must have a certain GPA, but not fantastic, right? I mean, the whole idea here is to recruit international students for U.S. universities and provide this educational path. So they must be reasonably good at speaking English, and they must be reasonably good at their academic subjects. But these are not necessarily the top 1 or 2%. We should hope that this is aimed at more like the middle range of students. And then when they come into these universities, these are good, what would you say, B universities. These are not Ivy League, right? But this is like the University of Massachusetts at Amherst and University of Central Florida. They're good state universities.
It opens doors.
It opens doors. This provides a very interesting thing. I think it's important that international students, the US may be the only country in the world, I think it is, where university for the bachelor's degree is split in half. So you take your general education requirements, which qualifies you for an associate degree, which is half a bachelor. And that half a bachelor is easily transferable to any other university that you qualify to attend. So this pathway program is very interesting to international students because it means that they're in the system. And with our current president, who's someone who's casting aspersions on, and feel free, don't let me stop you. Although I'm Canadian, so I really can't speak too intelligently given our completely inexperienced prime minister there. But he has made it quite adversarial for international students in his speech. Yet his State Department is assigned exactly the opposite job, which is to find as many international students as possible to attend U.S. universities. So there are certain levels of conflict. The fun part of this is that these students can study up to practically 1 year, factually 2 years of university courses in their high school, and then they come into the university as a continuing student. Now, the fun part about this is that a continuing student has almost 100% visa granting success, whereas the first originally arriving student is about 65% approval rate. So it's a very interesting pathway that says, this is how you get in and where you can go. So I think we have an interesting offering, but also clearly the students demonstrate that they can study in English. And we're very interested in having host organizations in various countries, everyone I see represented here, who might be interested in offering this program directly. And for those who are familiar with the UK system, the US system, by the way, does not have such a thing, but the UK system has a 2+2 and a 1+1, which is you study a year in your home country and then you come to the UK. We have a few universities in the US who are open to that. And I think that's going to be a very interesting future offering. And then just on the topic of women empowerment, this is the wrong business to be in if you're male, right? About 80% of the people in education are female. So to suggest that, and I got a kick out of it, Cinthia says, women get results. In education, women run the entire operation from start to finish. So I think that the two of us are outliers in this area. And just look around the table, clearly.
Well, Elshan also appreciates education and offers solutions in the learning atmosphere. The solutions you're going to talk about are mostly online, no?
Yeah, let me try to make my face here, maybe this way. Hi.
Oh, wow, there we go.
So since I have capacity and power to operate from here, thank you very much for the opportunity to chip in and say something. Basically, as a company, we help, as an import management firm, we help companies, U.S. firms, to sell their products and services. And LinkedIn Corporation is one of these options for us to promote their services. It's LinkedIn Corporation recently acquired lynda.com, which is cloud-based platform, learning platform, allowing member-based organizations, governments, universities, institutions to provide relevant content depending on the needs of the organization. So if you need anything in particular, we would be happy to communicate further how LinkedIn can help your organization, educational institution to benefit from this by bringing relevant content. And one of the things, the beauty is that with access to LinkedIn platform, you have access to 800 subject matter experts in different various fields, whether it's data analysis or coding or just even the women empowerment things. So I don't want to delve into the details, but just think about this as a platform with a huge opportunity to get access to instructors, primarily US-based instructors and professors, but also to the on-demand content. So thank you very much.
And if our audience has any questions, I guess we can proceed to that.
Okay. Yeah, there are some questions, Angela. as you collect them there, why don't you go next? The first question we have, I think, relates to something that several of the women touched on. There's so much change that needs to happen. And one of the things that someone mentioned was lead by example. And so considering that, what keeps you women going, given so much is required going forward in terms of change? How do you not get discouraged? How do you not focus in on the problem versus leading by example?
So much more is required. We need to propagate this for future generations.
How do you jump in, please?
If I may, since I made the point, actually scientifically it is proven that positivity depends about 50% on a nature. This is something inborn and you're born with. And if you look at all the leaders, they probably have that in common. I look at all these beautiful faces from around the world, from Pakistan to Peru to Washington. They all, I can recognize, a kindred spirit, that they're all very strong and positive women. I remember a very useful phrase that I have heard recently, that sometimes in life you have to be a little bit deaf. And when it comes to ignoring some of the negativity happening around you when you're trying to lead by your own example, I think that becomes handy, that you are trying to mute out all the discouragement, all the pressure that is coming after you. I think that the best answer to that lies in a very simple truth, that we are what we think. Our thoughts shape our actions, and our actions shape our habits, and our habits are definitely form our destiny. I think that's how it goes. So the more we practice what we believe in, like I mentioned, the better pattern of behavior you start releasing into your surroundings, into the environment. And just by staying positive, I know it is hard. I have this practice I always tell to my students. They come back to the same question. How do you do it? This doesn't work and that doesn't work and I feel sad. I say I have this practice of allowing myself 10 minutes per week, I feel sorry for myself, just 10 minutes per week. At the end of the week, it's usually Friday. I don't want to dedicate any time on my weekend for that. But 10 minutes on usually Friday night, I say, okay, I'm going to sit down and feel sorry for myself because nothing that I do works. I don't see, results as fast as I want. 10 minutes of that, it's done, and we just move on to the next stage. So staying positive is a must in this.
In that 10 minutes, is there alcohol involved at all?
10 minutes is not enough time to get drunk as much as I want. But as a responsible mother, it usually does.
I would like to share that research. I would.
Cinthia, go ahead. I think you were going to say something.
Yes, I was about to tell that. I was totally agree with you. Stay positive is the state of mind. And you don't have time to feel sorry more than 10 minutes a week, because things are not going to change if you don't take the first step. So I want to add some points that I write during this conversation about assume your talents. You have to believe in yourself. And not only that, be also aware of the barriers, external and internals, and do everything you can to break them. Not only for you, to do it for your family, for your friends, your colleagues, your children, your community, for the future generations. Try to share everything you have, your talents, your knowledge, everything that you can share with other people, and help them and help other women to come with you to the top of the mountain. It's the only way, helping each other. And empowerment. That's it.
In education, sure.
Tamara,
you go ahead. From Lahore today.
Yeah. I'd like to share before we move forward about one fact that it has been already recorded by World Bank report 2017. That was according to that report, around 50 to 70% of micro finance loans were used by the male part of the families or whatever, you know. So if women business owners, they are taking any kind of loans, so they are used by the male. The other challenge was around like 68% of the women borrowers, they require like their male relations permission in order to qualify for the role. Either you have to own a property, only then you qualify, or so overall the population, only 25% of the women in Pakistan, they are microfinance borrowers. So, and we have to be very firm when it comes to, we need to believe in ourselves and fight for a right in order to get acknowledged. And with education, that is possible. And for us, one of the main key is if we keep home and work-life balance. Without that, it's not possible for us to move forward. And even when we talk about the entire world, for women, they're still responsible for their home. No matter how much successful businesswoman you become, you cannot ignore not at the cost of your home. So we have to keep balance. That is one of the reasons to succeed, like a key for, to success for women in all this kind of businesses here.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
So, but the challenge lies in the
You're related to something that you mentioned, Samrah. There's a question or a comment from Wendy Anderton, who is involved with Global Ties. It's part of an organization across the U.S. that takes on international visitors through the State Department. And she's noted that she'd like to offer background of the work that the National Association of Women Business Owners, or NAWBO, did 30 years ago that relates to getting around this issue where women are required to have a guarantor that is a man in terms of loans. So there's information out there, where other countries have put forth some legislation, and Wendy I'll connect you and Wendy separately, and would love to have you get a hold of that information as well. Angela, do you have?
I do. Before we finish up, I have a quick question, and it has to do with what you just mentioned, Doug, the Samrah, the needing the patriarchal support to enter into business in Pakistan. Does this hold true for the education field as well? Do young women need their fathers, brothers' support to continue their education? I'm not sure if Samrah camera is working.
Oh, we might have lost her. You want to get to the next question?
Well, yeah, that's fine, and we do have to wrap up, so maybe we'll take one more question. Whether her answer is yes or no, I would think an insight that came naturally to me is that these educational hubs can provide shelter, can provide support, can provide a platform for cooperation for these women who eventually want to go on and do business. It seems like the education can be a stepping stone, and they can support each other, maybe make hubs. Just a thought that I had, because it's a little disturbing that a talented person, like the person that nobody would give a chance to, that you made your financial director, doesn't have the opportunity. We have to really support talent around the world, in my opinion. So that's my question, Samrah. I'm not sure if she's here to answer or not, but let's take one more, Doug. How does that sound?
Okay, please go ahead. Do you guys have any questions there?
Well, I see one question from Mike who asks about gender roles in STEM fields and whether the perception of traditional gender roles have to do anything with the percentage of women represented here. Yes, certainly it does, and it is a challenge. And one of the solutions that we have found here at ADA University, where I work, we host every year at our School of IT and Engineering a conference promoting role of women in IT. In fact, this is my favorite bag that I usually carry around. The picture that you see here belongs to Countess Lovelace, Ada Lovelace, and by some kind of mystical coincidence, her name sounds exactly like the name of our university, but she has been known in history as the first programmer. She was the one who invented analytical engine for the first time in history. And every year when I open that forum, a lot of parents and potential applicant students who sit there, we discuss with them traditional gender roles. And I want to go back to the comment that was made by our last speaker, who said that today the field of the education is almost run by women, also a result of traditional gender roles in this particular field. And when I am asked, well, why don't we encourage women to become doctors or teachers? Because here in Azerbaijan, they call it clean jobs, you know? And my answer to that is, what do you think is cleaner? To be, operating on someone, or to be sitting in an office working behind the computer? If it comes to clean, I think the second one is a much cleaner job. Of course, that's a half joke, half serious answer, but the truth is that we have to promote role models, something that has made it in that field, because most of them don't even know. When we look at the statistics of women in IT around the world, the global statistics is about 25%. When we come to our own School of IT and Engineering here at ADA, more than that, about a third of our students are female students. I'm in charge of branding and communication strategy of the university. And usually when I talk about role models, I intentionally put women students as face of the School of IT and Engineering, because it makes difference, because other young ladies look at that and this helps them to kind of overcome the stereotypes that they grew up with. So we certainly need to pay attention to the messages that we put out there. I mean, the reason why we have traditional stereotypical gender roles is because someone has worked for centuries to make them shaped like that. So it is our turn to start shaping different ones.
No question. And it does get frustrating that it takes so long to make changes. You know, especially all of you, you have a view of the world, and so you can see how things are in other countries. I was very pleasantly surprised to hear today about Azerbaijan in terms of its advancement of women in certain areas, especially voting in 1918, 2 years before the US. That's awesome. We need to wrap up, and so I'll turn it over to you, Angela, in a second, but I'd like to thank everybody for speaking today. There were a couple extra speakers today that are in our description, so we'll get them included in the wrap-up of the blog. We'll put together a blog post regarding this with some highlights, and really want to thank all of you ladies for participating and contributing today. Thank you very much. A lot of really great information and tips.
Thank you.
Angela, back to you. Why don't you wrap it up?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Doug, for coordinating this and inviting us all to join you. And I'm very pleased to see such kindred spirits and leaders throughout the globe making a difference. Yeah, thank you everybody for being here. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to be in contact with us at the ACE Center, info at ACE Center, and I look forward to future cooperation with youth, with education, men included. So thank you, gentlemen.